All right, we're back in recess. Thank you for being with us. A few technical difficulties, but we're back online. So thank you very much, and we'll start the deliberation process at this point in time. It is, we don't need to make a decision tonight, but it is our intention to make a decision tonight. And so we just heard from 4 great candidates and had an opportunity, obviously, to review their applications over the weekend too. So I just want to open it up for comments at this point in time and see if there's consensus around a candidate, and we'll continue to work through that process. So a little bit of sausage making here, but we'll get this started. So
I'm going to jump in and,
Okay.
and start the sausage making, as it were, and break the ice. We did pick 4 really good candidates, I think, as the finalists here, and I feel like they each have some unique skill sets that they would bring to this board, and I don't know, I feel like for me, I mean, I had like some top 2. I feel like Amy said some things that really resonated with me, and I liked the ease with which Eric spoke to us, and and I appreciated. I just felt comfortable listening to him and the back and forth with that. And Amy brought up something, and it's not just because it resonated with me, and I am a like-minded thinker in some way. But she talked about having a vision, and knowing what the overarching vision is, and then knowing how to break down the parts to get there. And I kind of feel that same way about some of the things I do and how I approach problem solving, and how I'm kind of an idea person, and then we have to figure out if we can get there and how we can get there. And, so I liked what Amy had to say about that. And, while there's some things, that she spoke about that maybe I don't necessarily agree with. I mean, they all talked about being good listeners and listening for understanding, which is kind of my favorite Covey trait: listening for understanding. Seek first to understand, and then be understood. I think that's an important quality for a board member, and it's kind of my hope, even though we might not agree with everything, that is the approach we take. And I think that's the approach that this board takes. It doesn't always look like that when we're making decisions, but there's a lot of deliberation that goes on, and some very thoughtful deliberation. She had a pretty exhaustive, I mean, she knows the community. She's been here a long time, and as a mom of kids, when she stayed at home, she used that opportunity to work with schools, work with community. So I appreciated that. Again, she rose to the top for those reasons. But all 4 of them brought some very good skill sets that the board would find valuable. So she's kind of my top choice right now. So
okay, thank you. Mr. Weissman?
Yeah, I'd like first to start off and say that I think I'll give all of us a pat on the back, because I think we had a terrific Final 4. I think all 4 candidates articulated their passion and the direction of this district, and felt very strongly about the positive impact that Huron Valley has on their lives and on the community. I would encourage all of them to run for any open positions that might occur in November. I think they're all worthy candidates. Very impressed with, as you stated, Mrs. Forrest, Mr. Lakin's comments, his background, his passion, his involvement at the high school level with the students. I think Mr. Conley also really was looking at, as all of the candidates, a way of giving back to the community. Felt very fortunate that his sons had a tremendous education throughout their educational lives in Huron Valley, and gave some very, very good responses to the questions, as did Eric, and thought they did a very, very nice job. Would be worthy members of the Board of Education. At this point in time, I'm looking at Amy as one that I think would add another dimension to this board. I think it's a person that has been immersed in our community for, as she said, 23 years, has 4 children that have or have had attended Huron Valley schools, that she's been immersed in the community in a variety of ways, and at the same time within our schools, but at the same time within our community itself, being a leader within the Huron Valley White Lake Business Association in her role, and in her involvement, most recent involvement with the new transportation services that are being provided by the seniors. I think that some of the things that resonated with me, and I too didn't agree with everything, had some concerns about some of the things, but that's true for all the candidates. But it's the piece that resonated with me is the fact that we can have, and we have exhibited as a board, civil discourse. We've had differences of opinion, when we handle them in a very respectful fashion. I think some people sometimes think that when you have a board that's 7-0, that it's a rubber stamp type board. And I know for a fact that it's absolutely not the case, because it's very difficult to have those conversations. And I really believe that all the candidates, but Amy in particular, really focused on making decisions in the best interest of all children, that she recognizes that there is differences of opinion, but we as the governance of this school district are going to do what we feel is best as a whole for all students and not for a specific group. She also recognizes there's a process that's involved, and some of the decisions that we make are based on law, that are based on what is expected of us and what's our constitutional requirements to follow. But at the same time, she also displayed what I know all of us believe in, that we have our core values and we have our core beliefs that we don't compromise. But at the same time, she recognizes that consensus building and compromise is extraordinarily important, and compromise is not a bad word. Compromise is really having the opportunity to listen to people and to talk to people and to understand those differences. And as I always say, we listen to everyone. That doesn't mean we necessarily agree, but please trust that each and every one of us are making that decision based on what we believe is best for our district. And there's a respectfulness as it relates to that, and I think it's important. I think Amy will provide an opportunity to do some bridge building, if that's the correct term. I think we all do a great job of outreach. We've been very hand-tied sometimes as it relates to outreach over the last couple of years, but I think we're doing a very good job of reaching out. And I think with our various task force and various other opportunities that Mr. Carlson has led us through. And I think at the same time, there's going to be some transitional decisions that we're going to be making over the next few months that I think Amy would provide some assistance with. So with that, I don't want anybody to think that the other candidates fell below our expectation. I think all the other three were extraordinary candidates, and I was very pleased and in the short period of time to get to know those people as community members. And I encourage them, if they are not selected, and I'm just one person bringing forth Amy, but that they continue to stay involved. So at this point in time, Amy would be my number one choice.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Weisman. Ms. Cotter.
First, Mr. Carlson, could you refresh my memory or refresh the rules regarding we have a smaller board here tonight, and I was curious, normally, how many votes would it take?
So in this process, so right now, we're just having conversation.
Correct.
Once we hear all the conversation, I'll see if there's a consensus through that aspect, and then look for a motion. We have 5 board members here. We would be required, the candidate needs to receive 4 votes.
4 out of 5.
Yes.
Okay. Based on what I heard tonight, and I must say, all 4 were wonderful candidates. They all showed different strengths in this group. Those that are not selected, I hope in the coming November election that they would certainly throw their name in the hat and run for an open position. I think the talent that we saw here tonight was very evident. It was, I was very pleased with everybody. One thing that I was, in part of my deliberations, I'm looking for I'm looking for a candidate that may still have children in our district. Not required, but it was something I was certainly considering. And although Mr. Connolly's kids have now graduated, from what I understand, the 2 graduates that left Huron Valley, we did a real good job with. So my compliments to the dad also. I was also very impressed with Mr. Lakin and his coming to Huron Valley, of course, as school of choice, and has been here for a number of years. And now his daughter is at Milford High School. Also an excellent candidate. This is very difficult for me. I will say my other feeling was when I talked with Rose, that lady has worked very hard for Huron Valley Schools. And I knew her, and certainly packing bags for blessings in a backpack. She has been a real advocate for Huron Valley Schools for a number of years. So that also brings me to Amy, and one of Amy's strengths that I see with her that I haven't seen in the other candidates, although we really didn't have any questions about it, Amy's very knowledgeable about instruction and some of the processes that are going on in the district. I was kind of encouraged by that in some of her responses. Certainly she has an understanding and a vision for Huron Valley. So that's kind of where I'm sitting at right now. All good candidates. I'd like to hear from more board members. So
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pastana.
Well, Ms. Cotter took most of my same thing that I thought about each. All of the candidates were great. Appreciate that they all came out and put themselves on the line. I mean, it's obvious that Amy and I have a lot of similarities. She always supported me as I ran, and PTA mom, they know a lot of stuff. So her and Rose were both strong in that. Same thing, Mr. Connolly and Mr. Lakin. Just good people that want to do the right thing and give back to the community. I, like Ms. Cotter, really would like to have somebody with kids in the district, but I certainly wouldn't rule out them just because they didn't. I would encourage all of them to run the board in November. I think it's really important. They all certainly showed their stripes. If I had to pick, well, I do have to pick. If I had to lean towards one right now, I think it would be Eric Lakin. I liked his answers. I thought he would be a strong candidate. That being said, Amy would be a close second for me too. So I'll listen and kind of keep my opinion till I hear maybe some more information.
Okay, well, I will weigh in. I'll try not to be repetitive. I guess I concur with most of my board members up here. For me, this is a little bit different in the fact that I started in this school community, and might sound repetitive, but was right here in this boardroom interviewing for a board position back in 2007. I was not selected to represent the board. I did answer the question, though, that no matter what the outcome was, that I was going to run in November, which I did. And I've been on this board for 14 years. Part of this is thinking about somebody, because it's very likely that the individual who wins this spot could also win in November. For me, this is about a legacy a little bit in regards to the school board, and making sure that it's left in good hands. I know it's in good hands with Mr. Weissman and Ms. Pastana and Ms. Forrest and Ms. Dodd, who's not here tonight. But I think it's going to be very important for this community. This appointment is very a critical decision for us as a board, but the community is going to have some very critical decisions coming in November as well. Again, in a lot of ways, I see Mr. Lakin and Mr. Conley. They're in business. I identify with them in a lot of ways. They're very similar, and I feel very comfortable with their styles. I see a lot in their styles with me. But I'm also very appreciative of Rose and Amy and how they've rolled up their sleeves, not just within the last couple of years, but for years have did some hard sweat in the position. I'm very grateful for Amy coming forward. As you will recall, we did not pass the bond in 13 and 14. We had our millage, and Amy was critical in helping us move that forward. Amy's thoughts and thinking may not be like me in a lot of ways, but I appreciate the empathy and the passion in her responses. As it was said by Ms. Forrest too, is that, you know, seek first to understand and then be understood. And I believe that genuine sincerity from her as well. I think that is one of the key cornerstones of any good board member is to try to listen and understand with the community as well as with each board member, because it is important. We can't act as one, we act as a board. And I think that she will bring a lot to that. I do believe when she talks about building bridges, that she can help build some bridges to some communities that we might not be as successful at this time. But I would also say that we can help her and bridge her to some communities that she may not be in at this time as well. I think that there's a lot to be learned here. And for me, Amy would be the candidate that I would be leaning towards at this time. I've gotten a sense that there's a general consensus around Amy, and I'm welcome to open up the nominations. But if folks want to weigh in a little bit more on some of the other candidates, we can do that as well. So this is the awkward silence sausage making time.
I just want to make sure this is a very, very difficult decision. And what Mr. Carlson just said, this is, you know, one that certainly impacts not just 7 board members, but who we represent. And I think that's one of the things that are really playing with me, as I'm going through this and deliberating and listening is the whole bridge building piece. And we all represent this community. We all speak as one, but we also have avenues that we listen to and we talk to and we work with that we share with each other. And I think this is an opportunity for us to be able to do that. And I just appreciate all my fellow board members' comments and certainly respect everyone's opinions. And I just want to make sure that people know that we're very fortunate to have such a tough decision. And I think it's really indicative and really demonstrates the strength of this district that we have such good people that really want to serve this community and serve 8,000 students and be advocates for public education. And each of them express their belief in public education. And I do have every faith that every one of them would go to the wall, just like we do, to support public education and do what we need to do to educate all of our community that the best place for every one of their children that live in Huron Valley, that the best place for them to go to get a quality education with quality opportunities, there's only one choice in my mind, and that's Huron Valley Schools. So with that, I would like to nominate Amy, and I'm going to have to get really good at pronouncing her last name, Grzynkowski, as our nominee for filling the vacant position of Jeff Longs.
Thank you, Mr. Weissman. Is there a second?
I will second that nomination. And before we,
Go ahead.
Before we vote, just this is just a point of reference. It really has less to do with our candidates and more to do with the transparency of this process. We have in Michigan a very strong and strident Open Meetings Act, which means every deliberation that we do is open and it's transparent. And I know that there's been folks that have said that we are not transparent. We have to be transparent. I believe perhaps the only governing body in the state of Michigan that is this transparent with elected officials is our school board. And, you talked about the awkward silence there, Sean, and, when we select a superintendent, it is all public. When we are now appointing a board member, which generally, usually an elected position, but it's HR, really, it's human resources, very similar to that. So, this is a tough process. Talking to folks, it's being filmed and, this is put out on YouTube channels, et cetera. And, we take this very seriously, but I just want folks out there to know that it's an extremely transparent process. And, that I don't want to say we're not transparent, but, it's difficult, when we're talking about people, which is our business and education, 85% is a personnel issue and kids. And so it's basically 100% people driven. And so, we want to do our best to appreciate everyone to come forward too and talk about this stuff in public where everyone can hear their answers. So I just wanted to throw that out there, as we kind of, I think, are wrapping up this decision that we are always above board, always transparent. So here we go.
All right, thank you. We have a motion made by Mr. Weissman, seconded by Ms. Forrest. Any other comments on this nomination? Ms. Pastana, any other comments? Ms. Cotter? Okay, we will move for a vote.
Thank you. Whoops, wrong sheet. Mr. Wiseman, you
Yes.
made the motion?
Yes.
Yes. Mrs. Forrest?
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes. Mrs. Pastana?
Yes.
And Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Thank you.
5-0, sufficient voting in the affirmative. Amy Grzynkowski will be the appointed board member, and we will look to have her take the oath at the next regular scheduled board meeting, which I believe is February 7th. Is that correct? So thank you. Thank you to our technical team for being here and making sure that we could provide this to our community, this deliberation. And thank you to each and every board member for your hard work over the weekend and these past a couple of days. Thank you. And we do have public comment. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, this special board meeting is adjourned.